Welcome to Volleyball State, your look at volleyball in 6 rotations. Here are your hosts, Jeff Sheldon and Lincoln Arneal.
Hello and welcome to Volleyball State, a look at the sport of volleyball in 6 rotations, a proud part of the Hurrdat Sports family. I'm Jeff Sheldon, he's Lincoln Arneal, and we have a lot of great stuff to get to on the show today. We are about 2 weeks away from the start of the Olympics in Paris, France, but Team USA, well, they are red, white, and bruised going into the Summer Games. Injuries and some struggles are hampering the Americans' push for a 4th straight medal and a 2nd straight gold medal in Paris. We'll break that down in just a little bit. Several current and future Huskers have waved the flag for the U.S. in junior international competitions over the last month. We're going to look back at how some of these Huskers performed in NORCECA continental competitions. Plus, we are 6 weeks out from the start of the college volleyball season and just a couple of weeks away from Big Ten Volleyball Media Days. We'll also have some pro volleyball news, both here in Nebraska and around the country, with some former Huskers going around the U.S., getting in place to play for next season. It's all happening. There really is no off season. But first, it's been a big week in the Volleyball State universe. Lincoln Arneal went and got himself hitched last weekend. Congratulations again, Lincoln. It was a great time. Sorry we didn't invite very many listeners to the ceremonies, but even if the weather was a little rough for an outdoor wedding afterwards, everyone had a great time, and it's still lasting, right? You're still married.
Yes,
you don't run
still
off
married.
Or anything.
Volleyball State did get a shout out during my now wife's vows, so she tried to get everyone in the audience to.
She was so kind to give the podcast a plug during the ceremony. I was like, my wife couldn't believe it.
Oh, she promised to listen to every single episode, so I got that. It's now a binding contract that she has to listen to this. So hello, Teresa.
So we know we're getting at least one download from Teresa. Well, hey man, congratulations again. I also I didn't mention in the run up of who our guest is today. We're gonna have an awesome guest coming up here in just a little bit. Former Husker and current U.S. Olympic team libero Justine Wong-Orantes. Not only one of the best players we've ever covered, but one of the nicest people. Like, Justine's just a sweetheart of a person and is awesome. Someone you're proud to represent the U.S. at the Olympics, and she's going for a 2nd straight Olympic gold medal with Team USA coming up in Paris. And we will get to all that here in just a little bit. But Lincoln, tell the people where they can find all of us in the digital space.
Yes, you can follow this. Get this, listen to this podcast wherever you want to, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe. That way, we will get back to a regular schedule, kind of a weekly podcast in August. But subscribe so you don't miss an episode whenever it drops. But you can follow us on Twitter at volleyball pod, on Twitter and TikTok. We occasionally put up videos there with the previews. You can follow me at Lincoln_VB to follow all my daily musings about what's going on in the volleyball world, and also read my coverage of Nebraska at Huskers Illustrated. We're in the middle. We're dropping all of our season previews, so I'm in the middle of positional previews, and we also are dropping kind of opponents previews as well too. So that's all dropping in July. So lots going on. Like you said, I feel like I got a moment or two to breathe, but volleyball season is here already, it seems like.
No more breathing for the next 4 months. I'll throw in another plug for our Twitter feed. If you go to @volleyballpod, we've been getting some great content being we are tagged in it. We did not create the content, so I don't want to take credit for that. But there's some great classic Nebraska volleyball videos that accounts like NE_volleyball or What Does the Film Say are posting. Great footage of past Nebraska volleyball matches, great footage of Nebraska recruits and current players, more stuff than has ever existed, I think, in social media before. So if you are just new to the volleyball universe, or your Husker volleyball fandom, you're early in that, or you're trying to indoctrinate other people, go to our feed and check it out. There's great stuff in there. Somebody posted a video the other day of Jordan Larson and Sarah Pavin playing in the 2005 national championship match in Omaha. That's 19 years ago, if you can believe that, when Nebraska won the national title against Stanford. And you can see why, those players are still standing up today. 19 years later, Jordan Larson's going to be on the Olympic team. Sarah Pavin looks like just missed out on qualifying for the Olympic beach volleyball tournament with Canada. She's also an Olympian, and there's several other notable names in that match on both sides, Nebraska and Stanford, that you would recognize, whether they're in coaching now, whether they have been part of Olympic teams. But it's really cool to go on our feed and check back through the history of volleyball.
Yes, for sure.
Let's get into rotation one. We are stars and stripesing it today with a look at the U.S. Olympic volleyball team. The U.S. opens Olympic play in just a couple weeks. We are taping this part of the show on Thursday, July 11th. And that's important to know just because we're going to talk about some friendly tune-up matches that are happening right around now. 2 weeks from now, the U.S. is going to open Olympic play. And the setup is that you have a 4-team pod. So the U.S. is going to play 3 teams in their pool to try to qualify for the knockout rounds. And they have a tough pool, in my opinion. They are going to open against world number 6 China, who beat the Americans back in May during the Volleyball Nations League. They're also going to play Serbia, who always has some big-time hitters. And then the host team, France, is probably the weakest team in that pool. They're the 19th ranked team in the world. So the U.S. would probably be favored in that match. But the U.S. probably needs to go 2-1 to at least to qualify for the knockout rounds, because the top 2 teams in each pool are going to qualify. And Lincoln, that is not a guarantee for the U.S. to try to fight for their 4th straight Olympic medal. And that's because the U.S. is not exactly firing on all cylinders as we talk to you here in mid-July. This is a team that has struggled to put the ball away, struggled to defend, and has really been hampered by a number of injuries. And primarily that's been at the setter position, where it seems like none of the U.S. setters are really staying healthy except for potentially Lauren Carlini. So last month on the podcast, Lincoln, we talked about kind of the biggest surprise, or at least discussion point, when Karch Kirai, the U.S. coach, released the Olympic team roster, was that the 2 setters that he is going to take to Paris is Lauren Carlini, the former Wisconsin star, and Jordan Poulter, the former Illinois All-American, who was the starting setter when the U.S. won gold in Tokyo back in 2020. Well, we talked at the time that Poulter had been coming back from a pretty serious knee injury. She had a very serious knee injury about a year and a half ago that she's still rehabbing her way back from. And then in an interview with the Denver Post, which is kind of her home area paper, Jordan Poulter is originally from Colorado, even though she played her college ball at Illinois. Poulter revealed that she had a bone bruise, and the Americans did not. The Americans had a warm-up match last night on Wednesday night against the Netherlands. They're going to play 3 friendly warm-up matches against the Dutch, one on Wednesday night just a couple days ago, one on Friday night, which will have happened by the time you hear this show, and then I believe that the third one's going to be on Sunday. And Jordan Poulter was not suited up for that. Neither was Jordan Larson, to be honest as well. She apparently had a hamstring injury, she had revealed. And so the Americans went with 1 setter. And the reason they went with 1 setter is because their backup, who's the listed alternate on the Olympic team, Micah Hancock, who many of you will remember from having a wonderful career at Penn State, also may be battling a little injury as well. You know, reports from Wednesday night, were that she she was seen in an ankle brace, I guess was the phrasing I saw. So you've got 2 of your 3 setters are potentially banged up. Your captain outside hitter maybe dealing with some bumps and bruises. I think the U.S. still has some time to finalize their Olympic roster. If they wanted to make a change, they could because of injury. But man, this is not what you want to see going into the Olympic Games. The U.S. did pull out the win last night in 5 sets over the Netherlands, who's the number 9 ranked team in the world. They were trailing 2-1. They come back and win game 4, 25-10, and they pull out game 5, I believe either 15-11 or 15-12, and held on there. But, you know, this is a U.S. team that is struggling offensively, that they are still figuring out kind of how they want to set the ball. Kelsey Robinson was the player taking the majority of the swings early on in that match, and she was not terminating all that well. It was actually Avery Skinner, a newcomer on the team, who played her college ball at both Kentucky and Baylor, who came through in that match with a team-high 27 kills. And then Dana Retke, the middle blocker from Wisconsin, who's on this team, had a big second half of the match as well. But Lincoln, I guess from you, the way you and I look at it, the vibes are not great going around Team USA as we get ready to go to the Olympics here in just a couple weeks.
Yeah, and this is coming off of a shaky performance in Volleyball Nations League. There were some matches that dropped that to other traditional powers, people that will be competing against here in a few weeks for medals at the Olympics. And they were and then this quickly dismissed out of it in the quarterfinals to Italy. So there's a lot of concern going around that this is not the same team that won the gold medal 3 years ago in Tokyo. So there's a lot of question. I was looking at the roster of the 30. I mean, they had a long list of 30 people trying out. So if Carlini is the only healthy setter, then what are you going to do? I mean, Ashley Evans and Jenna Gray are the other two that are listed on that, but I don't think they were officially named as alternates. So hopefully that ankle injury from Micah Hancock is not anything serious. But when you're hurt, that's the one position where you need some consistency. You need some stability to be able to carry the team. So it's really a lot. I mean, it's not good. Hopefully you get a couple more matches against the Netherlands to figure things out. So, but I mean, on the bright side, there are 3 Huskers that are representing them, the same 3 that played for the United States in Tokyo. Jordan Larson, who we've named them already, Kelsey Robinson-Cook, and Justine Wong-Orantes. So, and those 3 are really, even in the Volleyball Nations Leagues, are the 3 best passers for the United States. So they'll play a prominent role in the Americans' defense of their gold medal.
Yeah, when I look at this U.S. roster, and we can run through the rest as well. When I look at the U.S. and I compare them to some of the other medal favorites, and in my mind, that's like Italy, who I believe won Nations League. They're the number 1 ranked team in the world. They have one of the best terminators on the planet in I forget her first name, but Iganu, who's 6'7" and has been on the national team since she's been like 17, is just an absolute dominant attacker. Poland has some really good players and can put the ball away. Brazil is always going to be a threat. China is always going to be a threat. And the U.S. lost to each of those teams in Volleyball Nations League. And I look at this roster with Jordan Larson and Kelsey Robinson and Catherine Plummer and Avery Skinner as the outside hitters. And then your opposites are Jordan Thompson and Annie Drews. And I just don't know if the U.S. has like an elite world-class attacker on their team. Like when push comes to shove and you're facing a double block, where are you going to get kills from? And the way that the U.S. likes to run their system under Karch Karai, they call it USA Fast. They try to beat you with tempo. And so they try to be almost like a spread offense of volleyball where you don't have to be the world's greatest, hang and bang attacker, physically dominant to get kills. But, in the mousetrap game of volleyball where you have to have everything go right to be able to run that system, if you have a bad pass or if you're dealing with gimpy setters who are not as mobile as maybe they are at their physical peak, like you can't run that fast, or you won't be able to run as fast as you want to. And so then you're going to have to play out a system, or you're going to have to be able to get kills against a double block in predictable situations. And I just don't know if the U.S. has the firepower right now on this roster to get that done. Is that fair or unfair of me, you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair too. I mean, this is you'd hope that would be Jordan Larson, but this is because that's the role Jordan Larson played in Tokyo. But this is a older Jordan Larson, still a great athlete, but maybe not at the top of her game at the age she is in her late 30s. So you wonder where that's going to come from too. And Avery Skinner stepped up in a little bit. Jordan Thompson has played that, but like you said, when you look at the other teams that are at that upper echelon, and you didn't even mention Japan finished runner-up in the Volleyball Nations League too, so they're performing at a high level. So there seems to be a lot of teams that are playing at a higher level than the United States is, and you hope that the United States will pull it together on a big stage. But the data they've put out there and the performances they've done this year don't inspire a lot of hope in the United States capturing a 4th straight medal.
So this topic kind of I think the conversation right now around USA volleyball and the Olympic team can be very similar to a national team in any sport. And for most people, that's the soccer team it's most analogous to. There's a tension between, do you give young up and coming players more of the spotlight in the premier event? So in soccer, that's the World Cup. in volleyball right now is the Olympics. And so do you go with a veteran roster who has experience playing together, who's kind of got a built-in chemistry, who has a relationship with the coach and knows what to expect from them? Or do you say, hey, thank you all very much for your service, vets. Congratulations on the gold medal. We have to keep the program moving forward, and we have to bring in some newer players. And I think, the US is betting on their culture and their chemistry and their experience. But then you kind of see how that gamble is risky if you run into an injury situation. And I'm not saying that there is like a clear, obvious pin hitter out there that the U.S. should be bringing along that can help them with this. I think where the conversation has more pointed to, at least in the volleyball communities that we're able to be part of, is that setting conversation, right? Like you mentioned, Ashley Evans, who had a great college career at Purdue, and then Jenna Gray, who won, I believe, 3 national championships at Stanford, and then was like an All-American javelin thrower. I think that was Jenna Gray as well. And so they're in your program, they're in their, early to mid 20s. And if, you've got a choice between a setter who is dealing with some injuries and then a young, quote unquote, unproven setter, maybe you bring them along. That decision has not been made yet, as best we can tell. The roster is the roster until it's not. The U.S., I think it is telling that Karch Karai used his one. You only get one designated alternate spot, so you're kind of handcuffed if you have an injury or illness situation once you get over there. He didn't use that alternate spot on a pin hitter or a middle blocker or a backup libero. He used it on a third setter. So that might tell you, like, we need to be ready for any eventuality. But like, the other decision you could make is you could leave one of those setters off, especially if they're dealing with injury, and you could go grab, either Jenna Gray or Ashley Evans to come along and be that emergency setter. And, everything's a gamble. We'll see if it pays off. But, right now there's some tough decisions to be made, it looks like.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be, I mean, they'll play the 3 matches against the Netherlands and see how those go. And I think that's when they'll kind of reassess, figure out where everyone's health is at, what the team is looking like as far as what they need and what they're missing, and what the picture at setter really looks like too. So that'll be the key decisions coming up too, because then you turn around. I mean, that ends on Sunday the 14th, and then 2 weeks from then, July 29th, the United States is playing China in Paris. So and it really. The United States plays China first, and then 2 days later they play Serbia, and then they got a little bit of a break on. They play France on August 4th, and really you hope. I mean, like you said, they need to go 2-1. They need to win one of those first 2 battles against China and Serbia, who are also in competition to advance out of the advance. There should be. I mean, there is a chance they advance because I think there's a top 2.
I think they take the 2 best third place teams.
Yeah, 2 third place teams, because there's a field of 12 and they're getting it down to 8 for the bracket. But if you're a third place team, you're probably playing a first place team in the other pools
in the quarterfinals. Yeah, I mean, and part of this comes down to how competitive you are in your matches. If the U.S. is 0-2. And maybe they lose both of those matches to Serbia and China, 3-1, or they get swept. Well, then they're looking up at maybe another team that's also 1-2, but has lost a couple 5 setters, right? And so, it's important to be competitive in these matches. And if you're 0-2 after those first 2 matches, your Olympic run can be over before you even play that third match. And so the U.S. has kind of got to pull some things together fairly quickly.
Yeah. And U.S. kind of has the best draw as far as pool. I mean, in Pool B, you have number 1 ranked Brazil, number 4 Poland, number 7 Japan. Like we said, just they finished second in the VNL. And then Kenya is the number 20. So they're kind of the odd team out in that. And then Pool C, Italy and Turkey, who are second and third, so they're 2 of the best teams in the world right there. Netherlands will be in that one, so good luck to them. And then the Dominican Republic, who we'll touch again on later, is also in Pool C as well. They're the low team at number 11 in that one. So it's you get to top 12, and there's not a lot of gives. You're facing a great team every time out on the court.
Yeah, and I don't have the calendar for the Olympics in front of me. The next time you hear from us, the next pod we do will most likely be right as the Olympics are getting over, or we might be, looking at the medal rounds when we're talking to you all next.
The gold medal match is August 11th, which I imagine will be after Big Ten Media Days. We probably will have something right around then.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably do an Olympic wrap-up on our next episode and probably get to weekly episodes thereafter.
Yeah, and some season preview stuff. Well, thanks very much for that, Lincoln. Let's keep the Team USA talk going as we move into rotation 2. Always a great time to talk with Justine. I haven't been able to talk with her for a couple of years, but we want to talk with Justine not only about her Husker career, but also what it takes to be a libero at the international level, what it takes to be a professional, what sort of professional opportunities there are for liberos. Lincoln's wearing his Justice for Liberos t-shirt. Do liberos not find justice just as much as the other positions are? We want to talk about that and more with Team USA's libero and former Husker great Justine Wong-Orantes.
All right, and we move on to rotation 2. We are joined by former Nebraska All-American, currently the libero for the United States national team, gold medalist Justine Wong-Orantes. Thanks for joining us, Justine. Glad you could be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Did we miss any honorifics? We got All-American in there. We forgot national champion in there,
Yes.
Gold medalist. I don't know. You have the keys to a chamber of commerce anywhere? Did we miss anything?
No, you guys got it.
Awesome. Hey, we appreciate you being with us today, Justine. We know that the run-ups for the Olympics are happening. We should say, just for the listeners' understanding, while we taped the first part of the show on Thursday after the U.S.'s Wednesday night win over the Netherlands, we're talking to Justine today on Saturday afternoon. And so the night before, on Friday night, the U.S. actually swept the Netherlands in a really nice game on still in Long Beach at Friday night. What's it like, Justine, playing these tune-ups in Long Beach, which is where you grew up? You just told us off air the Pyramid is 10 minutes from the house you grew up in. Is this a pretty strong homecoming for you? Do you have a lot of family at these matches?
Yeah, I do. And a lot of just family friends that have been so I don't know, supportive and also flying from other places. And so it's really such a cool opportunity. And I am so thankful that we have the opportunities to play in America. And I really cherish those moments because I was saying in an interview last night, it really takes a village to get us to where we are today. And so I really just want to thank all of the people that have been in my village up until now.
So we're looking at the roster and the lineup for the U.S. going to Paris in 2024. There's a pretty strong veteran presence on this team from the 2020 Olympics, where you all won gold in Tokyo, yourself included, but a lot of this team is returning. Does that change, you feel like, the expectations? Does it set higher expectations for this team because there are so many veterans and returners who already have gold medals on this team?
Yeah, I think there is always a pressure when there's an expectation. I also think wearing USA Volleyball across our chest, there's always going to be pressure that comes with it. And what's very, very cool is that every country has gotten better since the Tokyo Olympics. So I think that just raises the level in women's volleyball. And it's so cool to see that, I guess, progression over time. And that's what's going to make it a very hard Olympics this time around, and I'm really excited to embrace that opportunity. And we as a team, like you said, we have a mix of veterans, but we also have a mix of kind of newcomers, and what they bring to the table is just so much composure. It's really cool to see. And so I think what we are going to be looking forward to do in Paris is just blend those two. As long as we can blend those two and just stay really, really tight knit, I think we'll have a really good chance in Paris.
Olympics too. I know you were part of the team that went to Tokyo. It's only 3 years ago because it was delayed a year. And I don't know if felt like you got the full Olympic experience when you were there. But what are you looking forward to the Olympic experience? I mean, you played a lot of international, but the Olympics are something different. What are you looking forward to for this Olympic experience?
Yeah, I'm really excited for that part. I think with my friends and family being able to join, that's going to be exciting for them to support and watch, and also like get a chance to go watch all the other Olympic sports. I really hope that we can also get a chance to go, watch a gymnastics meet, or maybe a beach volleyball. I have a good friend of mine, Sarah Hughes. We grew up together. She's playing in beach volleyball, and they're going to be in front of the Eiffel Tower. So things like that. I'm really excited to just get a chance to, just see the full experience of the Olympics, the village. Like, it's crazy to think about, like in Tokyo, we weren't allowed to leave the village, but this time around we can. So I don't know. I think it'll be a kind of a good decompress of when we're in the thick of it. I think like going to a coffee with my family, I think that's going to also be such a good time to like decompress and just remember like, hey, like you're here to play volleyball, but you're also here to like enjoy the moment.
For sure. It was a very different experience to me. Is there anything related to the volleyball side of things? I know you probably replicate the results most definitely, but is there anything that you want to approaching differently that you learned last time that you want to go about differently?
I think honestly, just having an open mindset, because I know a lot of things are going to come about, like maybe outside distractions. There's just going to be so much stuff going on. I mean, they were telling us when we land in Paris, there's going to be so much screenings, and we're going to have to go through processing, and like that's going to be new for us. And so having an open mindset and just asking questions when needed. I mean, Jordan Larson this is going to be her 4th Olympics. So I think she's a good resource for us to ask and just have on our team, and just kind of, I guess, guide us through that whole process.
I mean, we touched on it a little bit these last couple of questions, but just for everyone's reminder, the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo were held during the pandemic. And so when you say you didn't get to go out and do anything, it's almost like, were you sequestered? What could you do? Did you just stay in your hotel the whole time in between matches, or what exactly was the protocol?
So we had to test for COVID every day, and assuming those were negative, we could go about our normal daily activities. But we had a credential to stay in the village and then go to our playing site, and then also we had an offsite that USA had a high performance training center. So those were the 3 spots that we were allowed to go to. But honestly, the village was so big and kind of spread out that we had opportunities to go walk around and go see, the cafeteria. They had like a video game area, and they just had like, I don't know, it was really, really, really fun in Tokyo. They made it feel as normal as it could be. At least that's what I've been told. And so it didn't feel like we were just kind of like stranded in the village and just locked in the room. Like we did have opportunities to go like meet other athletes and exchange the pins with one another. So it was still really fun, but I'm sure it's going to be totally different when it comes time to go to Paris.
I do want to go back real quick to something you said a couple minutes ago about how all of these nations have improved at volleyball in your experience from the 2020 games. How exactly have you seen the international landscape change over these last four years? Who are some of the teams that you've seen really take a step forward that are going to be your big challengers for the medal stand this year?
Yeah, I think Poland is a big one that comes to mind. Italy, Turkey, Serbia, they've always been good, but they're still sustaining that level of competition. But I would say Poland, Italy, and Turkey, they have just really balanced their offense. And I think we see a lot of those top teams really, really increase their level in the side-out game. And I would say we were one of the best in Tokyo. Karch probably has all of those numbers like at the top of his head, but we were passing at a really, really high percentage. And I think that allowed us to have so much success in Tokyo. And now, like I've noticed over, the past 3 years, so have other teams. They're siding at a really high percentage. And so what can we take away from those teams and try to also like make it our own and implement our own system? But I think it's really cool to learn from those various teams and how they got better and just see the game evolve.
And then you have these teams that seem like they're always good, like China and Brazil and Japan, I believe, made the finals of the VNL. Right. I mean, does it seem like anyone can kind of win this tournament?
Yes, I would say most definitely. I think, whoever I think is gelling at the right time is going to they're going to have a really good run in Paris. And I think it's really cool to see like a Japan. They came and trained out with us in Anaheim before VNL. And so it was really cool to see their progression in VNL and then them making it to the finals. And so we can never count out a team like Japan now. So it's going to be really, really a tough tournament. But like I said, I'm really excited to embrace that.
You mentioned how, the United States was one of the better passing teams at the last Olympic Games. You look at who's back there too. You're obviously leading the efforts as a libero, but next to you are Jordan Larson and Kelsey Robinson Cook. Do you take pride that three of the most prominent passers are all former Huskers?
Oh yeah, I definitely do. I think that was a huge staple at Nebraska, serve and pass. Coach Cook probably said it once a day at whether it's training, whether it was in the games, like serve and pass is so important. And I think that translates into the international game as well. And I always tell like younger athletes, I'm like, if you can pass on the court, like you'll find a way to be on the court, because it's it's a great part of the game. It's where you score a lot of points, is in the side out portion. And so, like I said, in the international game, I think teams have definitely upped their game in that component.
Justine, one of the positions I think international volleyball fans, Team USA fans really have their eye on your team going to Paris is the setter position. It looks like you guys are bringing 3 setters. There's going to be Jordan Poulter and Lauren Carlini on the main roster, and then Micah Hancock is the named alternate. So all 3 will be headed to Paris. How are each of these 3 setters different, and how do they run the teams differently?
Oh man, yeah, we're really, really fortunate to have 3 high-level setters in our program. And like you said, I think they all bring something different. They all have a different setting style. They also all have a different leadership style. I think Jordan Poulter is the one that is going to kind of lead us and really like command us. And she does a really good job of just like, she's one of those like younger ones, but I guess now she's a veteran because she's a 2-time Olympian, but she's so composed. Like she has so much poise in her game. And I think she allows other people to feel that when she's on the court. And then I think Lauren is, oh my gosh, she has so much grit. She is a fighter. She's a competitor. Ever since her Wisconsin days, she's that setter that loves to play defense too. Like she's like prides herself. I'm never going to let a ball drop in my area of the court, which I love. And then Micah, she is, wow, I love her. She's a really good friend of mine off the court too. And so she is such a warrior. I think she has handled all of this with such composure. And I think what she has to say, everyone listens. She's a great leader both on and off the court. And so I'm really excited. And how cool is it that we get to bring all 3 setters to the Olympics?
And forgive me for not knowing from last night, but who set the team on Friday night?
Jordan Poulter.
Okay, so she was back. She did not play in that Wednesday match. Correct. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're talking again with Justine Wong-Orantes, the libero for the U.S. national team too. You've been in this role for a little bit too. What does it take to be a libero at the international level? Most of our listeners are probably familiar with what you were like when playing for Nebraska. How have you evolved in the last few years to play at the international level?
I think it was a lot of trial and error with my career. I think those first 2 years out of Nebraska, I did not go overseas. And I think that took me a while to realize like how important the overseas game is, just because you're learning from different players. There's different styles of play. And honestly, you're just over there when you're in a different country for 9 months, you're also like learning about yourself off the court and how to grow. And I think that part was really, really instrumental in my career. And so when I went overseas, like I fully bought into the culture, into what it took to be an international player. And it really is not easy to find a job overseas when it comes to being a libero. So I really like did not take that for granted. And the last 5 seasons I played in Germany for most of it, and then 1 year in France. But I enjoyed my time over there because it taught me a lot about myself and how to be a competitor, also how to lead a team with different cultural backgrounds. So that was very neat. But yeah, like I think Coach Cook, like we've had conversations over my years, and he told me one thing that I'll never forget. Like, it just took you to believe in yourself for you to like get to where you are. And that has really like stuck with me because it's true. Like, it's all about belief. And I knew I always could do it. I mean, Coach Cook really instilled that in me at my Nebraska years. And so I think just carrying that over to the international game, that has really led me to where I am.
For sure. You mentioned that you've played in Germany for the last 5 years. I mean, what do you enjoy about Germany? I mean, why that league? Why do you keep going back to that league? And is it the bratwurst? Is it soccer? I don't know. What is it? What do you like about Germany?
Yeah, honestly, the food is very, I would say, also Germany is like, the transition from America to Germany is very seamless. I've really never had any problems with like language barrier. Typically everyone speaks English there, so I don't feel like I'm like the outcast on the team. And like lifestyle wise, it's super easy. Like we can find everything at the grocery store. The transportation is amazing in Germany. Like I've always been lucky enough to have a car in my contract, but if I didn't, the train transportation is so easy. Really, really nice in Germany. And I would say the serving in Germany is very good. So for me, that was always a factor in like, how am I going to get good serve receive reps? And Germany, like as a team, as a program, like as a national team, you see their servers, like they are bombing serves. And so that was always a factor in like going in and seeing which league is going to be the most suitable for me.
You played a little bit in France for a season too,
Yeah.
is that right? So
Yes.
you're all familiar with Paris. You're able to give your teammates tourism recommendations and read the signs a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, we actually had a couple opportunities to go to Paris when I was there playing, and yeah, I love Paris. It's such a fun city, and also, there's just so much to do there. And I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to even go outside of Germany just to get a taste of a different culture, and I'm so excited to go back and eat some croissants, to be honest.
Well, it looks like the next step in your professional career after the Olympics is going to bring you back stateside. You're going to be part of the inaugural team of League One volleyball, Love, the Omaha franchise, and there's some more familiar faces to Nebraska fans coming on that team this year as well, with Jordan Larson, as well as some other former Huskers. What are you looking forward to most about not only playing professionally in the United States, but specifically coming back to an area of the country that is familiar with you and you are familiar with them?
I am beyond excited. I'm telling everyone that wants to listen about Love, like, I cannot be more excited. I think this is going to be such a huge thing for volleyball, for women's sports. I mean, we've seen it year after year with the Huskers. Like, they're just selling out crowds and selling out, breaking records, I should say. But I'm really excited to go back to Nebraska and just see, familiar faces and do something for the sport that has never been done before. I'm really excited for that part of it, and just seeing, also having a chance to play in front of my family again. I think that is something that I really missed. There were opportunities that, of course, they came over to Europe, but there's something different about being able to come home and be in front of your family in America and just share that experience with them. And and getting to do that with Jordan is going to be super fun too, because we never got the chance to play at Nebraska together.
Yeah, I think people don't always realize that, I am fortunate that I got to watch you both play, but I'm an old person. And so like just how far apart the generations of Justine Wong-Orantes and Jordan Larson was, it's not quite 10 years, but it's about 10 years apart. And so if a younger listener is listening to us right now, who just maybe started following college volleyball in the last couple of years, they're like, oh yeah, they probably played on the same team together, didn't they? And it's like, no, they were a little bit farther apart. So I think that's cool that we talked about this in the other part of the show, that there's just multiple generations of Nebraska players. And, you take Team USA for an example. 3 different generations of players who I don't believe ever played together at the same time on the Olympic team.
Yeah, that's right. It's really cool to see, like, I mean, Jordan is, I think she's 37 and she's still at the top of her game. And that's just really a credit to her and how she takes care of her body and just, she's hungry for more. And so she's such a valuable asset to our Team USA team. And I'm really like excited to go to Paris with her and just honestly just soak up every moment that I have with her, and then also get to play with and love Omaha with her. I think that's going to be a different type of feel, and it's going to be something that we're experiencing new, like for the first time together. So I'm really excited for this whole journey together with her.
For sure. I mean, the big event starting up a league in Omaha will be exciting for you. But it's not the only big event you got on the horizon for you, though, too. I mean, you're getting married. It's a very wedding-themed episode we're having after my wedding last weekend. You're getting married in October. How is the wedding planning going to really get into it post-Olympics?
So we're trying to do everything before.
Okay.
I think, we're actually sending our invites out next week, and then hopefully that's like all of the big things that need to be checked off. But yeah, I was like, let's try to do everything beforehand. I don't want to stress about it when I go to Paris. And Andrew, my fiance, will also be in Paris too. So I was like, let's just try to knock things out as they come. And so I'm excited. I mean, yeah, it's a big year, a big summer ahead, and I'm really excited to just soak up every moment.
Where's your wedding at?
In Texas.
Is it? Okay. Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you keeping your last name? Or are you going to go triple last name or?
I'll probably change my last name. Yeah. The triple last name. Oh my gosh, that would be so funny.
You're one of the few people I think who would get married and your last name would get shorter after you got married.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's see. Justine's got the Olympics coming up at the end of July, a wedding in October, a new professional franchise starting in early 2025. Not a lot going on in Justine's books, but first you got one more warm-up match before the Olympics. That's going to be on Sunday night against the Netherlands in Long Beach. Good luck in that match, Justine. The Olympics start also. The U.S.'s first match is July 29th against China, which is always a tough matchup. We appreciate you coming on to Volleyball State, and good luck in everything that you've got going on over the next 6 months.
Thank you guys so much. It's so great to see you both.
We appreciate it. Thanks, Justine.
Thank you. Have a good one.
And thanks again to Justine Wong-Orantes for her time and great insights being a professional libero, and best of luck to her as she heads off to Paris in a couple weeks. So we're going to move to rotation 3. We're not done talking about Team USA because while we've gone heavy in the senior national team, the Olympics, and participating in the Olympics, there's a couple other national teams that have participated in regional competitions that have had a lot of Husker flavor to them. So we'll kind of recap 2 of those tournaments and see what they've been up to over the summer break. So we will start up north with the United States, the under 21 at the Norseca Continental Championships that were up in Canada. And this was an interesting mix. I mean, it's under 21, but the United States took almost exclusively college sophomores and then rising high school seniors. A lot of those high school seniors played in the U19 World Championships a year ago.
Yeah, it was almost like a U19 team, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there were some college freshmen that rising sophomores who maybe are 19. I don't know if any of them were 20, but they were definitely competing up a level, and they had zero problems. They completely dominated the field. There was Suriname was there, and I felt so bad because I don't know if they got to double digits in any of the 9 sets that they played. Mm-hmm. It was rough. But the United States only allowed 2 teams in their 15 sets to get to 20 points. So I don't know how. I mean, it's good to play international volleyball. The United States made everyone else look ridiculous. And this team only came together for a couple of weeks prior to this, too. So it's not like they had been training in the gym for a while. But so to get to the Huskers who participated. So current Nebraska sophomore, rising sophomore, Bergen Riley was the setter, and Andy Jackson played middle blocker. And then in addition to that, Campbell Flynn, who is a 2025, she's going to be a senior in high school. She was the backup setter. And then Taraya Sigler, also a 2025, one of the top 2 or 3 recruits in the nation, future Husker. She played there. I will say there was a couple other chances for Nebraskans to make this. Lainey Choboy, I think, was in position to be the team's libero, but she got a little nicked up during the team tryouts. So she decided to just sit, rest. I mean, she was probably going to be out for about a week. When the tournament only lasts a week, there's not much you can do. So just a minor nick on her. Otherwise, she would have been on this team. Olivia Mack also tried out for the team, and they only carried one libero, which was Indiana freshman Ramsey Gary. So a lot of Huskers flavor this. And also Jalen Reyes, assistant coach for Nebraska, was an assistant coach on this team. So lots of Nebraska flavor. I mean, there's only 12 people there, and a third of them were Huskers.
And they were great too. Like if you're a Nebraska fan looking for off-season volleyball experiences or just looking for another reason to feel good going into the 2024 season, like these players were awesome. Bergen Riley, it's always hard. I'm not an educated enough volleyball watcher to be like, this setter just controlled the entire match. But she was the setter that ran this show. And the offense for the U.S. was outstanding. And part of that is because of the quality of attackers that the U.S. rolled out there. But Bergen Riley, you always feel good about her steering the ship going into her sophomore season at Nebraska. The breakouts, well, let me separate this into 2 things. The most encouraging, I think, Husker to come out of the 21 NORCECA championships was Andy Jackson. It was no doubt, that she was very impressive athletically as a freshman in her first year last year. She looks like she's gone up another level. Like you can tell she spent a year in a college nutrition, weight, conditioning program. She looks like she's going to be a monster. And she hit 660. I think you filled that in. I was going to just say over 500. She hit 660 in this tournament. And was just absolutely dominant.
50 attacks. It wasn't just a handful. She was averaging almost 10 attacks per match too.
So you can remember what she looked like hitting the slide and just going over people. She's going to be doing that again against some better competition, obviously in the fall than she probably saw up in Toronto. But if you're looking for just one more reason to feel good about Andy Jackson going into her sophomore year, she was outstanding in this tournament. Bergen Riley looked good, and then so I almost used the word breakout earlier. Andy Jackson's already broken out. I think the breakout player on this Team USA was Taraya Sigler, who we're not going to see in Lincoln until next year. She came into some of the matches and was really excellent, as I believe she was an opposite. She was a right side. I'm pretty sure.
She played at both positions, both pins, I think.
But Taraya Sigler is going to be a really exciting player to watch when she gets to Lincoln next year. So, if you were looking for more reasons to be excited about the bright future of Nebraska volleyball, watching this Team USA performance up in Canada was a way to go about it. Kentucky's Brooklyn DeLay was named the most outstanding player of this tournament. Nebraska's going to see her really early on. In fact, right away when the Huskers open the season down in Louisville when they play I forget what it's called, the ADCA First Serve Jump Start
Showcase.
Yeah, season opening event. They're going to play Kentucky and Craig Skinner. They saw her last year. Brooklyn DeLay had a really good match as a freshman against Nebraska in the Devaney Center. Nebraska's going to have to try to slow her down in match 1. And then, Ramsey Gary, who filled in for Lainey Choboy, Indiana's libero, had a nice match as well. So, that was the U.S. under-21 team, made quick work of it. You were able to watch it on some sort of pirated Spanish language YouTube broadcast that was on there.
No, that was you. That wasn't just no announcers. The other tournament had the Spanish.
Okay.
This is just nice, empty gym YouTube up in Canada. There we go. Volleyball. Thank you, Volleyball Canada, for allowing us to watch all those matches.
The other group that we wanted to talk about was the NORCECA Pan Am Cup Final 6, which was largely a team of, would you call this like a U22 team or a college all-star team that
all-star team,
the U.S. sent up there? The Huskers on this team were Merritt Beeson, opposite hitter Lexi Rodriguez, libero, and then newcomer Taylor Landfair, who spent the first couple of years of her college career in Minnesota. They represented Nebraska on this this Team USA club. The U.S. made it all the way to the gold medal match where they lost in 5 sets to the Dominican Republic. But before you go around thinking, oh man, what a disappointing finish, this was a team, like a junior national team from the U.S., playing against the Dominican senior national team that's headed to Paris for the Olympics. And the Dominicans are no slouch as well. They've got Betty Dela Cruz, who is on the Omaha Supernovas this year and has been one of the best outside hitters on the continent for, the last 10, 15 years. And the U.S. put a big scare into an older, more experienced Dominican team. And I was especially impressed with how Merritt Beeson performed in this tournament.
Oh, yeah. She had a big semifinal. I think she had also had double-digit kills. Maybe she had 14 kills for that. Lexi Rodriguez had 19 in the semi. But really, it was kind of the United States was really playing well early in the match. And then Sarah Franklin got hurt. I don't know if she landed on an ankle or just
twisted her ankle a bit.
And according to Dennis Punzel, I don't know. She said that he said that she may have broken something in there. I hope not.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So I don't mean – We'll stay tuned for Dennis's ongoing coverage, but she was definitely in a boot the following week. But she was unable to continue. But then Merritt Beeson stepped up and really kind of took on the load as the alpha on the court, and really a lot of her kills came after that moment. And she not only, yes, she was getting a lot of points with that, but watching that illegal Spanish feed, I think it was the Dominican national team feed, but this is also in a hostile, because this was in the Dominican Republic, so it's a completely full arena going nuts. The presence that Merritt Beeson has really, I think, pulled the United States into that 5th set, because they needed to win to force that 5th set. So again, we saw that countless times of she's the captain. She referred to herself as the mother of the Nebraska team last year. And you saw that, just with this group of collegiate all-stars, that she played that same role and was a very important figure on the court to really propel the United States to the level of success it reached. So I was, now the 14 kills in the gold medal match was impressive too, but to me, what was more impressive was just the presence she had on the court and how she helped push the United States to reach new levels.
So what's that? 4 of Nebraska's, depends on how you want to consider Taylor Landfair, but 4 of Nebraska's likely starters for 2024 had Team USA playing experience this summer. So, you hope they're taking advantage of their downtime. Practice is going to start. Lincoln, do you know, is Nebraska going to start practice in late July because they're opening the season a little earlier? Or are they opening in early August?
They start on August 4th. I think everyone starts later that week because they redid the calendar. Everyone got an exception. They got to start earlier just because the weird way the calendar falls this year. But because Nebraska's playing on that Tuesday, they get a few extra days. So what I've been told is Nebraska is practicing on that Monday, and then they will probably practice, and then the representatives are going to the Big Ten Media Days for that night. They'll go there on Tuesday, fly straight back, and probably go to their second practice on Tuesday. So they are going to squeeze in Coach Cook and probably 2 of the Nebraska players will squeeze in a trip to Chicago between their first and second practices for fall camp.
All right. So we're during our August shows, when we get back to the grind in August, we're going to have, positional breakdowns. We're going to have season previews. We're going to have Nebraska opponent previews. So we're going to go heavy on the Huskers when we come back in August. But right now, we thought this was a great time to move into rotation 4 and talk about the future of Nebraska volleyball. Lincoln's been knee deep in recruiting coverage over the last couple of weeks when he hasn't been busy planning and executing a wedding. Right after, and I'm like, should we have pushed last month's show like a week? Because as soon as we had last month's show in the can, we had commits start to drop for the class of 2026, and Nebraska once again with a star-studded class for the recruiting class of 2026. Lincoln, you have been all over this and talking with commits and breaking down their games. You want to take folks through what's kind of been happening over the last few weeks in Nebraska recruiting?
Yes, for sure. So June 15th, I think we released our episode, I think the day before that on the 14th. And June 15th, coaches were able to talk to commits or talk to recruits and kind of officially have those conversations and say, we like to officially offer you a scholarship. And Nebraska would hit the ground running. Their first call probably was to Gabby DeVita, who is an outside hitter from the Detroit, Michigan area. And she committed, I think in a couple days, I'm already forgetting the timeline of it, but that first
She was
weekend.
the first one. She was like, boom, right away.
That first weekend, she was the commit. Just a really athletic outside hitter, plays for the Legacy, which is the same place that Harper Murray. Campbell Flynn is her club setter.
That's in Michigan, right?
Michigan, yes.
Like Detroit
Michigan.
area.
So lots of familiarity. I watched some tape on her, and she's just a 6 rotation type of, really impressive passing, really athletic, long, 6'1", ranked number 9 by Prep Volleyball, 10th by Prep Dig. So a top 10 recruit. A lot of people look to her as being one of I think she's the 6th outside hitter by both services in the nation. So really kind of was that first recruit, and you like to have, I think Nebraska likes to recruit a 6 rotation or what looks to be a 6 rotation hitter in every single class. And she really kind of check marked all of those boxes. So she got the commitment train going. And then about a week later, yes, it was a week later. I was actually running a cornhole tournament during the middle when this dropped. But Jaden Robinson, the next Saturday, she committed to Nebraska. She is from the Houston area. She plays for Houston Skyline. She's a 6'3". She's played primarily outside hitter, but she made the under 19 junior national team as an opposite. So they kind of view her as, I think they view her more as that. And I think that's maybe where she fits more into Nebraska's plans as well, too, is playing that right pin. So she's 6'3". She has the ability to play both, very physical. Both of her parents played college basketball. So maybe a common theme that'll come back up, but she's come from a really athletic family. But she's mentioned Houston Skyline. She plays in the same club team as Hallie Thompson, who is the number 2 overall recruit and is headed to Wisconsin. So those two will continue their rivalry. I don't know if they play for rival high schools. They're club teammates, play for rival high schools, and then they'll eventually play for rival college programs too. So it'll be fun to watch her develop, because I think she's kind of viewed as a high ceiling. She's just recently trying to figure out her potential, and I think her club team finished second in the AAU national tournament, not the Nationals that are in Vegas, but the AAU Nationals. There's 2 different national tournaments. So
yeah, I still don't understand the whole club volleyball setup, but there's like USA Volleyball, there's AAU. If you're a parent with like a kid in travel sports, you probably feel my pain on this. Like, I don't entirely understand it. My kids aren't there yet, and I'm just like, show me what you're like when you get to college. But it seems like all the accolades are there.
Yes, for sure. So she's ranked number 5 by Prep Dig overall. She was ranked, I think, 42nd or somewhere in the 40s by Prep Volleyball. But I think that just kind of shows the late blooming status of her. I mean, these are all,
those rankings will get updated too.
These are all girls that are going into their junior year, so they've only played a couple of years of high school. So it's still a lot of potential to be reached. And then, so I was surprised that Jane Robinson was the second. I figured Nebraska would take 2 or 3, 1 outside and 1 middle. So getting Jane Robinson, who could be an opposite, is a nice luxury as well too. The third commit happened also the next week. But Kiani Williams, she's a 6'4" middle blocker from the Dallas area. I think she officially lives in Fort Worth, but plays for Dallas Skyline, another very popular, very elite club program as well too. So she's another top 10 recruit, number 6 by Prep Volleyball, number 7 by Prep Dig, and also I think another high upside. She's very physical at the net. When I talked to her, she referred to Asia Arneal as kind of one of the players that she looked up to. Asia Arneal also grew up in the Dallas area, then went on to play Texas and won a couple national titles there. So she models her game after very quick lateral movement. Also had basketball parents. Her dad played professionally, internationally, but played professionally, and her mom also played college ball. That's where they met at Cincinnati. So
Mm-hmm.
lots of athletic genes in these prospects coming up, but I think that's probably, unless Nebraska gets a walk-on defensive specialist, but I think that's probably all of the scholarship recruiting Nebraska is going to do for the 2026 class, which sounds ridiculous. We're not even a month into the recruiting process, and Nebraska's done 2 years.
Well,
2 years before they show up and play.
It's been like this for a few years, though, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it was like this last year. Maybe somebody waited until after coming to the Dream Team camp to commit, because I think I read your story in Huskers Illustrated that Keani Williams has never been to campus. She has not been to a camp at Nebraska.
Jaden Robinson, Keani Williams is at camp, and Gabby DeVita has actually been to a match because she has an older sister who plays for Lipscomb, and when Lipscomb played at Nebraska last year, so Gabby DeVita wanted to see, this is one of my schools I'm looking at. So she came and watched it, but Jaden Robinson had never been to Nebraska at all.
Yeah. And so she's going to get a chance to visit now. And it just seems like it's happening earlier and earlier, where, the open or the scholarship offer period starts. And then like a week later, your class could be done. And I think it is really unique, in the college volleyball setup. Maybe there's other sports out there and I just don't realize it, but I think each of these three prospects, one of the through line that I see, or the common thread, is incredible athleticism, leaping ability, physicality. Robinson and Williams are both 6'3" or 6'4". Gabby DeVita is 6'1". And I think each of these three prospects were potential recruits that we mentioned during our June show when we were running down some of Nebraska's top targets. So it seems like none of these are really a surprise in your mind. None of them kind of came out of nowhere.
No. Yeah. Nope. I was definitely prepared for all three of them. I wrote about a dozen blurbs of possible commits, so I would be ready when they dropped. And these were definitely all things that I was expecting. But you mentioned kind of how fast it goes. Looking at Prep Dig's 2026 rating, 20 of the top 25 ranked players have already committed.
Well, and that's where it looks like, the rankings are going to get shuffled over the next couple of years as these players, continue to mature and finish their college careers. So take it with a whole lot of grains of salt, but it looks like the top classes, at least as measured and ranked right now, Nebraska would be up there near the top. Wisconsin is really good. And then Texas. And it seems like that's sort of been the schools that almost have created their own tier of volleyball recruiting over the last couple of years. Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Texas seem like they're sort of separating themselves from the pack a little bit. And, how that's going to translate in 4 years. And then when these players are in the middle of their college career, it's hard to say, especially with the transfer portal right now. There's always going to be a transfer in both directions, in and out from your favorite college program. So maybe that makes it feel like you're buying a different kind of lottery ticket when you're looking at these players, but you would rather have more talent than less talent. And it's going to be, if you're a fan of any of those programs, Wisconsin, Texas, Nebraska, you just got to feel good that the talent's going to keep coming in.
Yeah. Texas got the number one overall recruit, Henley Anderson, who's from Austin. So not a big surprise there. They got
that's convenient.
Yeah, setter Guinevere Harris, number 4 ranked overall for both. They're going to Texas. Then Wisconsin got, like we mentioned, number 2, Hallie Thompson. They got number 6, Lenny Tarnow, a middle blocker from the Chicago area. And then they got the number 8 outside hitter, Audrey Flanagan, who's from the, I think San Diego or Los Angeles area, somewhere in Southern California. So both those three classes both got multiple top 10 recruits, according to Prep Dig.
So what exactly then, as Nebraska gets ready to hold its Dream Team camp, which is, its signature, not only camp event, but recruiting event. And that's going to be this weekend. So if you're hearing the show like Monday, then last weekend, a couple days ago, but
go read my article
right now. We can read Lincoln's article about it, but what exactly is Nebraska now using this as like keeping an eye on 2027 and 2028 prospects, or what exactly are they trying to get out of this weekend?
It's very forward looking. You mentioned last year there was only one uncommitted 2025 prospect. That was Ryan Hunter, She was the only one who came into camp as a then rising junior who was uncommitted, and she committed about a week later to the Huskers too. So a couple of those Nebraska of the 2026 commits will be there. Some of them will be playing with the junior national team in Honduras, so they can't make it. But it's really looking out. It's setting yourself up for next summer. So there'll be a lot of 2027 commits coming in. You look at who that class is replacing. So that'll be replacing the Bergen Riley, the Andy Jackson, which is weird. They just completed their freshman year and they're already thinking about replacing them. Laney Choboy.
When they graduate, let's put it that way. Like when their eligibility is done.
Yeah, their 4 years will be up by the time to 2027. So looking for setters, looking for an outside hitter every class. But they'll be that's where they're looking forward with that, and some 2028s will be in there. Which
are any of the 2025 recruits who will be here next year? Did they come to the Dream Team camp? So this is like Campbell Flynn, who is going to be a setter that comes in next year. Ryan Hunter's still coming back from a knee injury, I believe. She's out of North Carolina. She's a pin hitter. And I forget who else is in 2025.
Carrie Leinbach, who I should imagine she'll be, unless they have other volleyball commitments, because she's from Lincoln Lutheran. And then I think
Sorry to blindside you with this. I figured you just know it off the top of your head. But is there a middle in next year's class that they have?
Yes. The late middle that they got, Minaya Ogabeji. So she's the then also Toriah Sigler, who we've just talked about earlier too. Yes. So I will see I remember last year, so Olivia Mock, I think, played a little bit. Aiden Ames, who was then a Nebraska commit and didn't end up signing, she was there in street clothes, just kind of hanging out. Didn't end up and then I don't remember if Skylar Pierce was there or not. I don't think she was. So
Skylar Pierce is going to be a freshman on this year's team.
Yes.
So we'll talk plenty about her. Not only as the season goes along, but she'll be in our roster or our positional breakdowns coming up next month. But it's an important time. I know the Nebraska coaches like to build chemistry and camaraderie on a recruiting class, just like camps in all kinds of sports. So check out Lincoln's write-up on that. If you're listening to the pod on Monday, it's probably up right now at Huskers Illustrated, and check out his breakdown of Nebraska's Dream Team camp. Should we move into rotation 5 and talk about year number 2 of Big Ten volleyball media days? You going up to that?
3.
Year number 3?
Year number 3.
It's an institution at this point.
Yeah, that's going to be that first Monday, Tuesday in August. I have my flight already booked for that. So Nebraska goes on day 2 this year. So we'll get to see I'll fly out Monday morning. I'll miss Nebraska's first practice, but there will be no local media availability. We can just take pictures but we'll talk to the representatives. Last year, Merritt Beeson and Lexi Rodriguez went for Nebraska, and they were probably locked in. We'll see.
I think Bergen Riley should come this year.
Yeah, see if they can get 3. But we'll see. Those are my favorites for that. But it'd be great to talk to Bergen Riley.
I think if your setter is not a freshman, like your setter should go. It's like taking your quarterback to football media days. Like
last year Wisconsin took both of their setters, and I remember my first question to Sheffield was, "So you're still running a 6-2? Can we assume that by the fact that both of your setters are here?" So yes,
What we wanted to do in this rotation maybe is just talk a little bit about some storylines we're keeping an eye on going into Big Ten Media Days. It's a way to look across the conference. The biggest story, I think, in the Big Ten this year is the Big Ten has now grown by 25%. They're welcoming in Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA, the West Coast schools. If there wasn't a question before, it's certainly beyond question now that the Big Ten is the nation's premier volleyball conference, because you're adding Oregon, who's reached a Final Four, Washington, which has won a national championship, USC and UCLA, who have also won national championships. In fact, I think USC, before Penn State's run where they were going undefeated all the time, USC was the last team to be undefeated and win a national championship before the Penn State run. So welcome in to our new West Coast siblings. And that's one of the big storylines we're keeping an eye on. And one of the other ones that you would put down, Lincoln, is right now, Nebraska and Wisconsin seem like they have separated themselves as the top teams in the Big Ten. Who's going to challenge them this year? Who's going to make a run at Nebraska and Wisconsin to try to dethrone them as conference champions? I think there's some really interesting prospects out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it does happen, it's going to be one of a handful of schools.
Yeah, and I think you start those lists looking at Purdue was one of the youngest teams besides Nebraska in the league last year with their outside hitters, Eva Hudson and Chloe Chicoine. And they're only going to get better as well too. And then their middle blocker, Raven Colvin. So they return a lot and hopefully a year of experience in the Big Ten.
I feel like Purdue too, they're so well coached with Dave Shondell. Like, I can never tell you who their setter is, but I always know their setter's good.
Taylor Anderson will be there. She was a freshman last year, so that'll help her too. So, yes.
So Purdue's going to have a big physical middle. They've got maybe the best pin hitting duo or outside hitter duo in the Big Ten, although people get crabby at me on social media when I say that. But Hudson and Chicoine are really good. They've got a good setter, and they have a tough place to play. They've got a really nice home court advantage at Purdue.
Which I haven't reported this before. They are going to play a couple of games in what is
Mackey Arena?
Mackey Arena is their basketball arena. I talked to Dave Shondell. They're still working on which ones they will do that. But I mean, because their gym is only, is it 2,000?
It's tiny.
Is it even 2,000?
Maybe.
It's small.
It's small.
It's one of the smaller
it's
gyms.
Loud.
It's always sold out. Yeah, and their fans are right on top of you. So it's good to see that they're realizing the popularity, and they're going to move a handful of matches into Mackey Arena. And it'll probably be, whatever the elite Big Ten teams that go there. So, but I think Purdue's in that. The other one that I think is Penn State as well too. Katie Shoemaker-Cawley is really kind of finding her ground. They had one of the more impressive transfer hauls too. They got some Nebraska expats going there too, but they reload. Jess Maruzic, she was one of the better outside hitters on that team, that the United States team that played in the Dominican Republic. So they have that. They add more transfers into it, and they got one of the better setters coming in. Both them and Wisconsin will probably start freshman setters. So look for I think Penn State, if they can hit with their transfers again and their freshman setter, who I'm blanking on her name. She's from Colorado. See how quickly
you look that up. The other team I want to kind of keep an eye on is Oregon. I think Matt Ulmer is a good coach up at Oregon. They had one of the best freshman outsides in the country last year in Mimi Collier. At least I'm pretty sure Mimi Collier was a freshman, but she's really, really good. And just, in the same way that I think it's going to be an adjustment for the West Coast schools to make all these trips east to play in the Big Ten, Nebraska and all the East Coast and Midwest schools are going to have to go out west too and readjust their body clocks and have to play road matches out in the Pacific time zone. And I think that's going to give Oregon and Washington some advantages when other teams go up there.
Yes. Mimi Collier would be a junior because she was a freshman that beat Nebraska in those regional semifinals.
That's right.
A freshman with Brooke Nunaville on that team. And then Izzy Stark is going to be the freshman setter for Penn State, with Charlie Furbringer is going to be Wisconsin. So a lot of freshman setters, but I think Izzy Stark was the number one overall recruit in the class too. She was at Penn State during the spring semester. So she'll make them very dangerous.
Let's go real quick through some of the other things I know we want to keep an eye on at Big Ten Media Days. We don't have to discuss them a whole lot, but you're at Minnesota. You're going into year 2 with Keegan Cook. Is he going to be the guy that brings Minnesota kind of up to that upper echelon in the Big Ten, or is he just going to be another guy? It was a big story when Minnesota hired him away from Washington. Now Washington's in the conference, so they get to have the awkward Thanksgiving dinner together. That's going to be fun.
His former assistant coach.
Indiana, made a step forward under Steve Aird last year. Are they going to be the upper middle class of the Big Ten? Ohio State had a rough year last year, and I didn't even realize how rough again until last night when I looked them up. They were 11-18, I think, last year. They had Emily Londot, one of the best outside hitters in the Big Ten, and still managed to be sub 500. So are they going to rebound under Jen Flynn Oldenburg? And then kind of your traditional cellar dwellers in the Big Ten have always been Iowa and Rutgers. Is that going to stay the same, or is anyone else going to kind of fall into that bottom spot? One potential candidate for that could be Northwestern. Sorry to Emily Eamon, but Northwestern made a coaching change after last season. They have the only brand new coach in the Big Ten this year in Tim Nolan, who is going to try to put things together up in Evanston. But those are some of the things that we're keeping an eye on. Anything else come up while we've been talking through these?
The one other thing I was going to mention is year 2 of Aaron Virtue at Michigan. They bottomed out. They suffered a lot of transfers. She spent a lot of time away with the national team. She'll be with the Olympic team this year too. But she's a very well-respected coach. Can she get the Wolverines back in the top half, which is now harder to do with all the new members? So that's another one of the storylines that I'll be.
They're another school that's playing more matches in their basketball arena.
Yes.
I think I don't know if they still play any in Cliff Keen now, but the Nebraska match last year was in their Chrysler Arena.
Yeah, almost all their Big Ten ones, the matches they play, and Michigan State's kind of followed suit. So either a lot of schools like Indiana, Ohio State are building specific volleyball gyms, or like the Michigan schools are playing more in their basketball arenas, which good for the sport. Let's keep doing that. So
yeah,
well, good. Well, that'll come up. We'll hopefully have a full report from Chicago in a couple of weeks. I will be there, and we'll have lots of stories, and Jeff and I will break down what we learned from that as well too. But we'll move on to our last rotation, our pro volleyball updates. There's a lot going on. I believe all of the League One rosters are set, but also free agent signing period started for the Professional Volleyball Federation. And it was
just Yahtzee. They just threw the rosters up in the air and musical chairs. It was crazy.
And it's still ongoing, but Supernovas are very active. The big signing for them is Brooke Nuneviller, who's the captain. She's coming back. But the other thing of note that we'll talk about is 3 former Huskers signed with the Supernovas. Brianna Holman, who I think you covered, Jeff, she is back. She's been playing internationally, I think in Israel the last couple of years too. And then 2 former recent middle blockers, Kayla Caffey and Caitlin Horde, are also are joining Powers. They both played in the PVF last year, both for different teams in Columbus and Grand Rapids. Flip that order for them. But it's kind of it's a fun what if you think about, because those 2, Caitlin Horde transferred from Penn State and was going to play alongside with Kayla Caffey for the 2022 season. But that's when, the scholarship kerfuffle happened. And in late July, early August, Kayla Caffey announced that she's transferring and going to Texas. So they never played together. But they both were coming off of All-American seasons, and Nebraska looked stacked at the position. But now they'll finally get to play in front of Husker fans, but it'll be Supernova.
Bree Holman's interesting because she was one of the last high-profile transfers into the program before the transfer portal, as it is now. And very famously, she transferred from LSU, where she was an All-American, to Nebraska and had to sit out a year, couldn't get a release to play right away, which is totally alien to anyone who watches the sport now. You don't have to sit out after you transfer. And then she played on Nebraska's national championship team in 2017. And I always remember she graduated from Nebraska, got her degree at the December commencement. That was on the same day as Nebraska played the national championship match down in Kansas City in 2017. And the team was going through their walkthrough warm-up Saturday morning before the Florida match. And they put on the big screen down at the arena in Kansas City a stream of Nebraska's commencement. And she got a shout out from, I think, Chancellor Ronnie Green at the time. And they gave her diploma down on the court, and, they were happy tears, and the whole team came over and gave her a hug. It was super cool.
Yeah. So Yeah, that means so a lot of former Huskers playing there. They are not the only team in Omaha that is going to be loaded with former Huskers. League One has kind of finalized their roster for the Omaha franchise. We already knew it. In fact, we were part of the group that broke the news that Jordan Larson was going to play for them. Our guest today, Justine Wong-Orantes, she'll be playing there. Maddie Kubik from a couple years ago, she will be joining Omaha, along with former teammate Lauren Stivrin. So they will have 4 former Huskers that will be joining them. And also some other
that's like 4 generations of Husker players on one team. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, I forgot to count, but they're really going hard into local alumni playing with the Austin-based team. They might have 4, 5, or 6.
Well, it's smart from a marketing perspective, because then you're going to have a built-in affinity with your fan base as you're trying to draw crowds in your first year.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of fun that they also have multi-generational of people who never played together in college for Texas, but now they're played together for the League One Austin team. So Omaha also signed Amber Stivrins, who was the sister of Lauren. She played in Nebraska a couple times, or at least once. Gabby Blossom, who former Penn State, and then transferred to San Diego and led the Toreros on that magical Final Four run. And then opposite Adriana Fitzmaurice, who is, I think she's from the Kansas City area.
She's from the Kansas City area. She played at Stanford, and she was a player that Nebraska really recruited hard and lost that recruiting battle to Stanford. And she's an opposite here. I think she was actually recruited as a middle, and she might have bounced back and forth a little bit at Stanford, but she won a couple national titles with Stanford.
Yeah, so cool. The last noteworthy move for the professional ranks, go back to PVF. Caleb Banworth will be the head coach for the Atlanta Vibe. The Atlanta Vibe had the best regular season record, but they lost in the semifinals. But she'd kind of been involved with the coaching ranks. She was a coach down with Athletes Unlimited and did some consulting work. So she is now going to be a head coach. This is her first head coaching job since she was let go at Ole Miss a couple years ago. So I think she'll do well down in Atlanta. I think just from what I know about her, she'll be a very good pro coach and kind of have that rapport, and she's won Olympic medals. So has that kind of laurels to give her credentials.
In the PVF this year, we have one new team. Indianapolis is going to be the one new team that's added for 2025. We had sort of heard that there was efforts to get Kansas City and Dallas off the ground for 2025. That's not going to happen for this year. I think they're still working to get that going for next year. So there's going to be no I-29 rivalry this year between Omaha and Kansas City. But, that's fairly common, I think, when you're trying to get a league up and running, is you've got expansion plans and wishes, and sometimes things happen, and sometimes you've got to push it off a year as you get your ownership situation all figured out and squared away. Yeah. So Indianapolis, the next new team in the Pro Volleyball Federation.
Who former Husker Kenzie Knuckles is doing marketing for the Indianapolis Ignite. Oh, yeah. That's kind of her hometown area. So she is joining them. So they will be up to 8 teams. Hopefully that'll help with the scheduling. So.
Absolutely. So that is all of the volleyball news that we found fit to talk about today. You want to rep the show by what you wear on your head, on your torso, anywhere. We got merch at hurrdatsports.com/shop. That's hard to say, /shop. But you can get your bald set spike shirt, your Justice for Libero stuff, your Volleyball State things. I wore something while I was out mowing the lawn the other day. I wore our Volleyball State t-shirt. Oh. So I've got 3 or 4 of these things, and I'm proud to rep the show. I'm proud to talk about the volleyball community that we're all creating together. So head to hurrdatsports.com/shop. You can support the show with merchandise from Volleyball State. Also, we would love it if you subscribe to us and you reviewed us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. That's Spotify, that's Apple, on YouTube. Subscribe to us, give us a good rating, and that'll just help us continue to grow the show and talk more about volleyball with more people. We see this sport just growing in popularity with the professional stuff, the big crowds in college. Regardless of how USA Volleyball wants to treat their Olympic tune-up matches, we know people are also interested in Team USA Volleyball. And hey, we've got a small but mighty role to play in talking about volleyball and letting more people come to appreciate it. Lincoln, how can people continue to engage with us besides literally wearing us on their backs and stomachs?
You can follow us on Twitter at volleyballpod. Email us at volleyballstate@gmail.com. I am on Twitter at Lincoln_VB, and your Twitter handle is by Jeff Sheldon, BY.
By Jeff Sheldon, just like a byline. You can find me there and yell at me about my opinions or send me hot tips or things like that. I'm always a little snarky about that, but like I've met some really cool people who want to talk volleyball through the internet, who send us cool videos, who ask great questions, and like I would much rather do that than talk about depressing pro sports teams that I follow or the nation's rapidly deteriorating political landscape. Like, let's talk about volleyball.
It's great. Yes. And by the next time we talk, we'll be in the throes of fall camp and get back to that. So we've almost done this for a year. So thanks for sticking with us over the long off season. Also special thanks to Brock, Workman, and Kahm Broham for producing today's show. Thank you to Hurrdat Sports. Follow Hurrdat Sports on social media and YouTube. And thanks for living in the volleyball state.